Oh, that's the on bitch, so no.
No. It's me.
Oh, is it?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير ونفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وبسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله مرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. Okay, so we are continuing on the chapter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Shamā'il. We're going through the Shamā'il of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we're looking at this abridgment of Imam Tirmidhi's collection known as Al-Shamā'il Al-Muhammadiyyah. And we have come to the chapter on the hair, the sha'r of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And we've looked at some of the narrations with respect to the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Tirmidhi rahmatullah alayhi basically brings 4 chapters with respect to the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One is this chapter, the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in this he will discuss the length of the hair and the thickness of the hair. Okay. The next chapter, which inshallah we will go through, is the grooming of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hair, how he would groom it and how others would groom it sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then chapter 3 would be the grayness of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hair, how it would become grey. Okay. And chapter 4 was the dyeing of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hair. Would he dye it? Okay, and how would he dye it? But in this book he brings them together. So one on the hair, one on the grooming, and one on the fragrant greyness and pure dyeing of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hair. Okay. The general, when we look at all of the narrations, and we'll give a kind of a bit of a backdrop, and then look at the ahadith. Generally, what we say, what we understand from the ahadith is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hair tended towards curliness, although it was not ja'ad al-qatat, extremely curly, to the extent where it was just like coils, but it tended towards curliness. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are 3 terms that we need to be fully aware of with respect to their length and the thickness and the strength of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hair. And these are terms that we have discussed previously, but it's important to look into again. The first one is known as wafra. Wafra. Okay? Wafra. And wafra, you have like the back hairline. Okay? The back hairline ordinarily should be in line with the earlobes. Okay, so that is when the Prophet's hair was up to that point. Okay, that's known as wafra. Okay, so up to that back line, i.e., in line with the earlobes. Okay, the next term to be employed is known as limma. Limma. And limma, okay, so we have wafra, which is up to the earlobes. Okay, I'll come back to limma. Jumma is the next one. Jumma. And jumma is when the hair is at such a length that it's at the shoulders. Okay, so we have wafra, which is up to the earlobes, i.e., to the level of the back line of the hair, and we have jumma, which is at the level of the shoulders. Now, the other term that I mentioned, limma, is between the two, so between the earlobes and the shoulders. So it's not reached the shoulders yet. Okay, not reached the shoulders yet. However, these terms, although they discuss the length of the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they also give indications with respect to the thickness of the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as a general rule, we understand that the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was extremely thick. It was not thin, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And never would any of the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam fall out. Okay, he had very thick hair, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this word wafra, from the meanings of wafra, is like extremely thick, an abundant amount. Likewise, this word jumma in and of itself not only relates specifically to the length with respect to getting to the shoulders, but also a plentiful and extreme amount. Okay. The word limma, which relates specifically between what is between the earlobes and the shoulders, that also gives an indication from the deeper roots of the meaning with respect to the strength of the hair. And reiterating that point, that the hair of the Prophet ﷺ was like mustaqar fi makaniha, that it was like extremely like deep, his hair. It wasn't like thin, you just pull it and it would just pull off. Okay, very, very kind of well, established hair. Okay, a point is mentioned that the hair of the Prophet ﷺ, how many hairs did the Prophet ﷺ had? The ulama, the narration mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ, he had hairs the number of prophets that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent. Now, what is the dominant opinion of how many prophets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent? Prophets.
140k.
100, some say 124. Okay, so the dominant opinion is 224,000 in excess of prophets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent. 224,000. So he had 224,000 strands of hair. And each prophet took sustenance and assistance through each hair. Okay, that's the point. Okay, that's who he was, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. Now, letting his hair grow, okay, this was not ordinarily a custom of the Arabs, but it was a custom of the prophets. So the prophets, okay, alayhimus salam, all of them would have long hair. That was the sunnah of the prophets, not necessarily sunnah of the Arabs. So many people say, oh, well, used to long hair, that's what they used to do in those days. No. Specifically with respect to the length of the hair of the Prophet ﷺ, that was specific to the Anbiya. Okay. Now an interesting discussion. Did the Prophet ﷺ cut his hair? When did he cut his hair? And did he allow the cutting of the hair? Okay. Now there are some opinions within the Sharia which say that the cutting of the hair is totally haram for a man. Totally haram to cut his hair. There are opinions like that. Okay, except in nusuk, except in acts of worship. So, for example, Hajj and Umrah, etc. Now, that's a valid opinion. And where do they get that? Where's the dalil for that? We look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ cut his hair 4 times in his life. When were these 4 times? The first one, well, we won't give these chronologically, but we'll give this with respect to where they were, what they were. Okay, one of the times that the Prophet ﷺ cut his hair was the Hajj that he did. And the Hajj that he did was obviously, he did one Hajj, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's what, after he conquered Mecca, he went and did a complete Hajj, right? The second, so he did a Hajj and he did an Umrah. Okay, so Hajj is not the circumambulation of the Kaaba and the Sa'i, that's known as Umrah. Hajj is the Mina, the Muzdalifah, the Arafah, that's what's known as Hajj, the Ayyam al-Hajj, the days of Hajj. So the Prophet ﷺ did Hajj, but he also did Umrah as well with that. Okay, so in that time he cut his hair once, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the entire, shaved his head. Okay, another Umrah that he did was at Hudaybiyah. Now Hudaybiyah, very interesting. So what happened at Hudaybiyah? The Prophet ﷺ was in Mecca, okay, in Medina, and he has a dream that he sees people, he sees his companions with their heads shaved doing tawaf of the Kaaba. Okay, he sees this, and so he has this yearning, as do all of the Muslims, because they're praying towards Makkah, they were yearning to go and do the Umrah. So what they do is they go, we mentioned this on Tuesday, right? They go in the ihrams and they go towards Makkah, walk all the way towards Makkah, right? And when they get there, obviously they're met by the Quraysh. The Quraysh are like, we're ready to fight you, we'll kill you. And they didn't come with arms, important point. They didn't come, with arms, right? What happens is they are stopped and then they rest at a place called Hudaybiyah. And Hudaybiyah is a place where they engage in this kind of bartering now as to some sort of an agreement, a treaty where they can kind of agree peace. And eventually they come across this agreement where they will basically have no fighting for 10 years. And during that time, okay, they will not do Umrah that year, but they will come back the year after. Okay. And so a lot of the companions, they were upset by this because they were like yearning to go to Mecca, and they were really upset that they weren't able to do this. So anyway, yeah, they've done all that effort from coming to Medina, coming to Ihram, so excited, thinking, and then they get stopped right there by the door. They literally see the Kaaba, they stopped. Okay, and so and you can imagine like some of them like that was their home. They're like they're gonna go back home, right? Subhanallah. So then they're really upset. Anyway, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, He orders the Prophet ﷺ, like at that point, even though they have done Umrah, to حَلِّقُوا رُؤُسَكُمْ, cut your hair. So the Prophet ﷺ orders his companions to cut their hair, and they're like, no, we haven't even done Umrah, we feel so sad, we feel so upset about it. So he then goes back into his tent, and his wife Salama radhiyallahu anha says, you just cut it, they'll follow you. So he comes out and he gets one of his companions, Abu Talha radhiyallahu anh, to cut the hair of the Prophet ﷺ. And so what he does, interesting, the companion comes and he's like, I've been ordered by my wife that I need to get half of your hair, otherwise I'm having problems. Amazing, right? Like, subhanAllah, like, so the Prophet ﷺ, what he would do whenever he would start cutting, he would cut from the right side. So he'd cut the entire right side and he just gave his hair, gave his hair like a very generous, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, and then when he would go, then he would cut the left side. What he does then at this point, obviously the companions see all this and they start to cut their hair. He tells Abu Talha, get all of the companions. This is mentioned in like Sahih Muslim, right? Like authentic narration. What he does, he tells all the companions, you do tawaf around me, the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, and as the companions are doing tawaf around him, Abu Talha gives them one hair, gives them one hair, gives them one hair, gives them one hair. Okay. Why? Because like the hair of the Prophet ﷺ is where they got strength. Like we see this like through the hair of the Prophet ﷺ, these people got strength. We look at like Khalid bin Walid when they're fighting in the Battle of Yarmouk. Okay, when they're going to fight the Romans, and the Muslims are like very few in number. The Romans, how many people? 500,000 people. Right? So Khalid bin Walid, he's going to battle, and in his helmet he has a hair of the Prophet ﷺ. So he says to the leader of the Muslims, "This looks tough. Let me go by myself. I'll do it. I'll do it all." And the leader of the Muslims says, "Listen, you're good, but you're not this good. Like, no way." And he goes, "No, just let me go. Just let me go." And eventually, after bartering, right, the Khalid bin Walid takes like 29 people. And they just go and just, the 500,000, and eventually obviously more come and stuff. But the point is, like, what was that? What did he have? He had the hair of the Prophet.
Do you know how some people claim that they still have the hair? Like is that true? Do you think they do?
Yeah, I'll come on to that.
Because when I was growing up, like my mum would like go and like apparently one person would have it in the house and everyone would like get together.
Yeah, yumkin. Yeah, of course, possible.
Wow.
Yeah, because you see, preservation. Okay, so preservation. And we'll see when it comes to the grooming of the Prophet ﷺ, that he did certain things to ensure the preservation.
Yeah.
And so this is important. The Prophet ﷺ, like people saw assistance and tawfiq through the hair of the Prophet ﷺ. Like Khalid bin Walid, whilst he's in that battle of Yarmouk, he's fighting and his helmet gets thrown off, and he goes into a state of panic and worry, and he's like, walking in, like he can't find his helmet, and he's walking in the battle, and he's trying to find this helmet of his. The companion's like, why? And he finds his helmet and falls down, and he's open and he sees the hair of the Prophet. This is the adab and the respect that they had, but they saw like sustenance and assistance through the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Now, so on that basis, so obviously that's Hudaybiyah. Then the next time that the Prophet cut his hair was the Umrah of Qada. So obviously they didn't do it in Hudaybiyah. They came back, didn't they, and did another Umrah. So he cut his hair then as well. So we got the Hajj, got the Umrah, and so we got the Hajj, the Hudaybiyah, and we got this made of Umrah, the one that made of Umrah of Qada. The final one, another one that he did the Umrah was after the Battle of Hunayn. After the Battle of Hunayn, the Prophet ﷺ, he also did an Umrah at that time, and he cut his hair. what the ulama then say, so the point is that you're not allowed to cut your hair except when in times of well, except in religious, situations. So that's their basis behind that. So the Prophet never ever cut his hair at all, except in those circumstances. So their dalil then is that for that hukam is, well, the Prophet never ever cut his hair ever. Okay, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Okay, so and then another thing that we note is that the Prophet didn't like people seeing his hair. He didn't like it. Ordinarily, he never, very rarely had his head uncovered. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what was that? That was modesty. Modesty. Out of modesty, he did not uncover his hair. Like, a woman, like, you can discuss like all these show hijab and stuff like that, but the natural fitra within a woman, she doesn't like to have her hair uncovered. Like, when a woman uncovers her hair, it's actually going against her grain. She doesn't like that. Okay, she doesn't like to do that, but they do it because of societal issues and pressures and all these kind of things. But naturally, a woman likes to keep covered, and so the point is, likewise, men, from their modesty, they should keep their hair covered. That's from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he did that. Okay, he did that sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. One of the things that we noticed that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would always groom, and we're going to the grooming, but he would always shave his head from the right side. Okay, he would always start from the right side, sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
But men can show like their chest and stuff. But like, it'd be odd if, like, say you guys walked around with your chest covered. That would be more odd for us than you showing your hair.
But that's society. That society was different, So our society is like, and yani subhanallah, nowadays, like, chest uncovered is like a, a norm type of thing. Okay. The point is that, like I said, that so in Hudaybiyah, the Prophet ﷺ got the companions to do tawaf around him, and he gave them hairs each. Okay. And a lot of times, some people kind of like listen to narrations like that and think, what the hell? Yani, what a lot of people forget, like, what is the greatest place on the earth? Not the Kaaba. The greatest place on the earth, without doubt, upon the consensus of the scholars, is the place where the Prophet ﷺ is buried. If it was not for the Prophet ﷺ, we wouldn't even know the Kaaba. Like, if the Prophet ﷺ told us, like, Wolverhampton, in West Midlands, in West Park, there's a big tree there, you got to do tawaf around that, we would go. Like, we wouldn't even think, we would say, yeah, labbaik Allahumma labbaik around that. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, but he told us to go there. So we only go there because he told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he is the asr. He is the greatest Kaaba, really. And our circumambulation, be it metaphoric, is more greater than that. That's the point. Okay, that's the point here. I ask Allah for tawfiq. It's interesting. Like, the Prophet ﷺ, this Abu Talha, he was the one who said, look, listen, I'm going to cut your hair. I need half of it because my wife's asking for it. Like, she wants the barakah. Yeah. And can you imagine that? Like, the Prophet ﷺ pays his barber with his hair. Like, you go to your barber and ask him, yeah, listen, I haven't got any money, but here's some of my hair. You're like, I'll just see this every day. It's like nothing. It's a commodity to me. But it was his hair, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like, there's a man, my teacher told me of a man in Abu Dhabi. Like, you have, obviously, Abu Dhabi is quite a rich place and stuff like that. And, they're all about, high flying, cars and playboy. Literally, there's boys playing, aren't they? That's all they do, right? There's all this money and stuff. So he goes, there's one person, and mashallah, very wealthy. All he does is buys the hairs of the Prophet. Just finds them and buys them. Spends thousands upon thousands just to get the hairs of the Prophet. From wherever they are.
Why are people selling them?
Yeah, well, money is talks, doesn't it? But the point is that my teacher said, I saw he's got loads to the extent where he combs it, and he actually, my teacher said, I saw this with my own eyes, that he's got like this meter and it shows that the hair's growing. Yeah, the hair's growing, still growing, and he goes, yeah, I saw this with my own eyes. Okay, he's measuring hairs and they are continuously growing. Okay, That's one of the miracles of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the barakah. Okay, and these things, we sometimes think as unbelievable, and you just have to see it to believe it. Okay, but the point is that that's what the barakah is there. The barakah is there. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How the Prophet ﷺ would, generally, and we will look into this, like he would braid his hair, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he would put 2 braids at the front and 2 braids at the back. So generally, when he would plait his hair, he would plait his hair in 4. Okay, he would plait his hair in 4, and he'd bring 2 in the front, okay, and 2 in the back, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was his sunnah. Women, when they plait their hair, they generally put their hair in the back. But for the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ would bring 2 plaits to the front. Plaiting the hair was something that Bedouins do, not city dwellers. Okay, city dwellers would groom their hair and oil their hair and comb their hair, but it's a sign of a Bedou who doesn't have the time or maybe the resources to oil their hair and comb their hair and pick their hair and stuff like that. So they would just plait it because it's easy. It's like low maintenance type of thing. Okay, now what he did is that it's interesting because when he gets to the Fatih Makkah, like what was the hair of the Prophet when he takes over Makkah? Plaits. Now look at that. Like he taking over Makkah after being kicked out. He's now rocking back into Makkah and his head lowered and he's got plaits. So that not only showed, like despite that, Badu, like out of humility, like subhanallah, like what is that? Like out of humility, he's still in plaits. He didn't have to, but it was just symbolic. So look, I'm just a Bedou of this place. That's what I am. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But also, the issue of plaiting was something that was something particular to the Banu Hashim. So the tribe of Hashim, which was where he's from, they were people who wore plaits. So Abdul Muttalib, okay, wore plaits. Abu Talib wore plaits. Abu Jahl wore plaits. Abu Lahab, they would wear plaits. This was something from the not Abu Jahl, Abu Talib, Abu Lahab, okay, the uncles of the Prophet ﷺ, they would wear plaits. Okay, this was something specific of them. So when he comes back into Makkah, it's like symbolic, not only of the issue of Badu, but hang on, this is who I am, by the way. Yeah, I'm from that tribe who was from here. Okay, sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wa sallam. Another point to discuss is how would the Prophet ﷺ, again, we'll partly go into this, but we'll mention it now. Like how would the Prophet ﷺ be in Makkah? Generally, you would find that the Prophet ﷺ in Makkah would not center part his hair. He would comb back his hair, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But in Medina, he would put a center part in. Now, in Makkah, okay, you would generally find the Quraysh would be parting their hair. And so he, to be dissimilar to them, would comb his hair back. Now, who was that similar to? The Bani Israel, the Jews. Okay, so in Makkah, he would comb back because the Mushrikeen, the Quraysh, would be parting. Okay, so he wanted to be dissimilar to them. Hadith of the Prophet, Khalifu al-Mushrikeen, like be different to them in this regard. When he gets to Medina, who's there? Jews, and they have the comb back. So then, what does he do? He does the parting there, again to be different to them. Okay, sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sallam.
Does that relate to now as well? Don't be afraid to be different.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Our society, societal, like this concept of societal norms, where you have to be a certain way, it's toxic. Okay, that's why the Prophet said, "Fatuba lil ghuraba." Glad tidings to those strange ones who look strange. Okay, but that's what it is. It's about being a stranger. Okay, sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Okay, one of the things that we note about the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like when he would wake up, like he was natural about it. When he would wake up, he would look at himself, and if you could see the parting was there already, he would then continue the parting. But if he would wake up and not really see a parting, he would just come back. So that's why they say, like he would wait for Allah to groom the hair. So he would wake up, and if Allah has ordained that he's going to part, khalas, he would part. Otherwise, he would come back. Okay? Yani Allah himself was grooming his hair. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Okay, let's just quickly look at the narrations. عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه قال كان شعر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى نصف أذنيه. So Anas ibn Malik رضي الله عنه says that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم hair would reach midway between his ears. Midway between his ears, that is wafra. Okay, midway between his ears. Okay. عن عائشة قالت كنت أغتسل أنا ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من إناء واحد وكان له شعر فوق جمة ودون وفرة. Aisha anha, the wife of the Prophet, she says, the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم and I would take a bath from a single vessel, and he would have hair that was higher than shoulder length, jumma, okay, but lower than wafra, which is earlobe length. So she basically affirms limma, okay? So she affirms this where it's in between the two. That's the opinion of Aisha radhiyallahu anha, okay? And Hani bint Abi Talib قالت قدم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مكة قدمة وله أربع غدائر. Okay, the Hani, she says that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم arrived in Mecca and he had 4 braids. So that concept of braids, the concept of plaits, is what we've mentioned. Okay. عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يسدل شعره وكان المشركون يفرقون رؤوسهم وكان أهل الكتاب يسدلون رؤوسهم وكان يحب موافقة أهل الكتاب فيما لم يؤمر به بشيء ثم فرق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رأسه. Ibn Abbas mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ used to let his hair hang in front, meaning comb back, whereas the Mushrikeen would part their heads, and the people of the book, yani the Bani Israel, the Ahlul Kitab, they would let their hair, all the way back. And he used to like to conform to the people of book in those manners which he had received no command, okay, because they were closer to the way of oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he sallallahu alaihi wasallam began to part his hair, yani when he went to Medina. Okay, he went to Medina. Okay, just a little bit about the grooming of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What we note about the grooming of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam hair is that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordinarily would always have at any one point on his possession 4 things. He would have a mirror, he would have oil, he would have a pick, and he would have a comb. So the mirror he sallallahu alaihi wasallam used often, and whenever upon occasion he would just look at himself and make sure that he looked presentable, and that is from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to always look presentable and always look smart. That's from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But again, engendering a concept of modesty. Like you do that, but not to the extent where you become arrogant, which happens a lot. People are like, I look, wow, right? And it gave out of modesty. Okay, and why? Think about think about the mission of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to bring people closer to him, and part of that is to be presentable, physically as well as mentally and spiritually, etc. That's part of that. And whenever anyone came into contact with the Prophet ﷺ, they would be awestruck by his beauty, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he didn't make that much effort, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the point was, like he drew people close, and they didn't even say anything to him. That's something else, where you can just sit in like we mentioned, sit in the presence of someone, khalas, and Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Okay. The people, people we know, subhanallah, great people who can read what you're thinking. Okay, friend of mine, he said, we were sitting in front of one of the scholars, mashallah, great alim, great wali, great friend of Allah, and we're sitting with him in Makkah and we're eating, okay, and I'm sitting there and there's grapes and everything on the table, and the sheikh is in front of me, and he goes, I just have this fleeting thought. Right, as my head is lowered, imagine if the sheikh, got a grape and fed it to me. And he goes, as I lift my head, he's there with the grape. Okay, and he's like, oh wow, like, people, subhanallah, and maqam, mashallah, they see what people are thinking. That's a higher station. Okay, higher station, subhanallah. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would have a mirror, and he would oil and a pick and a comb. The mirror, like I said, with oil, he would apply upon his hair, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is something that he would do to saturate the hair. But this is not something that he would do on a regular basis. He would only do it like once, every so often. And he would do it when he would find that his hair had become dry. Okay, he would oil it. And when he would oil it quite a bit. Okay, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he oiled to the extent where he oiled to the extent where we'll come up to a narration. Okay, zayyat, to the extent where like you could feel like it smelled so much oil, like he was an oil seller. He really oiled his hair, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was for preservation. And how he would do it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that he would get the oil and put it in his left hand, okay, and then rub, and then he would place on his eyebrows first, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then place upon his hair, sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Okay. In addition to that, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so this would be the application of the oil. What he would do then, once he's oiled his hair, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would put on something called a qina', which the hadith comes in here. He put on a qina', and the qina', what it would do, it would act like a kind of a mesh cover, and it would be like a head cover that would protect his turban and his clothes from the oil. So he would have like a head cover, and that would cover the entire, all his hair, such that his turban and head and his clothes would not be soiled by the by the extreme amounts of oil, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. With respect to the beard of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have a thick beard, and he would have like the front of his beard is called a sabala, and that would be like beautiful, and it would stretch forth, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. He let his beard grow, and he would trim his mustache. That was from his sunnah. Okay. He clipped his mustache and he let the beard grow, and he would comb the beard regularly. He would comb the beard regularly. The Prophet ﷺ actually prohibited a man constantly combing his hair, because he says that's a feminine thing to do. Man shouldn't be constantly looking at his hair. Nowadays, subhanallah, like, oh, it's got to look like this. Women, like, woman, okay? Woman, okay? Like a man should inhibit manly characteristics, okay? Like, oh, you need to be a bit more feminine. No, yani. Allah has created you a man, and you have to be a man. And the best way you can compliment a woman in terms of work well with a woman is you maintaining your manhood. Like when a man, and not the man concept that we recognize of this powerful kind of, zalim, right? We think that's what a man is, to stand up. La, manliness is the Prophet ﷺ. Like as far as the Prophet is concerned, to cry is better than to fight. That's manliness. And we have to understand that. Like you're able to kind of, your heart is soft, that's a man. Okay? We would think, oh, no, you got to be rock hard. That's a man.
That's the way.
No. Isn't it?
Yeah.
But like the companions, like they would cry in an instant. They were men. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's it. That's what rujula is. This concept of manhood. So the Prophet, like a thick beard, okay, and he would comb his beard, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when he would comb, he would get his mirror. So he would get his mirror and he would comb his beard like that. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whenever he was concerned, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would rub his beard like this. Okay, that's when he would be concerned about something. And whenever he was like sad, he would grab his beard and just look at it like that. Look at his beard like that. Okay, he would grab his beard and look at it when he was sad. And when he was concerned, he would do this. Sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And like subhanallah, you hear these things, just like I just want to see him. I want to see him doing that, And that's like the whole maqsad behind all of this. Like all you want to do is just like get lost in this, so you just like, oh man, I just want to see him. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah grant vision. I mean, okay. The qina' was this thing that was like a thick kind of like a mesh they would put upon his head, and that would protect his turban and his clothes from the oil. Okay, so let's quickly go through the hadith and then we finish inshallah. So Aisha radhiyallahu anha, so Aisha radhiyallahu anha would say, قالت كنت أرجل رأس رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنا حائض. Okay, she said that I used to comb the hair of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and I would be menstruating. So what does that mean? That the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was right next to the masjid. Okay, and when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was doing i'tikaf in the masjid, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would come to the edge of the masjid and put his head upon the window of the house. Okay, and so Aisha would be hiding from the curtain and she'd be menstruating, so she couldn't even leave, she couldn't enter into the masjid. And from behind the curtain, yani subhanallah, like what type of love is that, huh? That despite being in i'tikaf in the masjid, he would still go there and let his wife comb his hair. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Yeah. I mean, nowadays, like a man would never let his wife comb his hair. You know, he's like, get off me. You know, subhanallah. Okay, but Aisha would let his wife, the Prophet would let his wife, Aisha comb his hair. And this also confirms the point, although it's a side point, like there's a hadith, there's an ayah of the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the menstruating women, and he said that, la taqrabuha, don't go close to them. Okay, so this is why it's important to understand what Quranic ayahs mean. That doesn't mean literally you can't go close to them, they're impure. Just mean with respect to intercourse. Otherwise, the Prophet got close to Aisha and she, and she combed his hair. Okay. And Anas ibn Malik radhiyallahu anhu قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يكثر دهن رأسه وتسريح لحيته ويكثر قيناعه. That's the point. حتى كأن ثوبه ثوب الزيات. Okay. Anas ibn Malik radhiyallahu anhu said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to frequently apply oil to the hair on his head and comb his beard, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he would frequently wear a qina'a, his head cloth. Okay, so much so that his clothing would be like that of an oil seller, like he smelled that much of oil, sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Okay, next narration. And Aisha قالت إن كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يحب التميّن في ظهور إذا تطهر وفي ترجل إذا ترجل وفي انتعاله إذا انتعل. That the Prophet ﷺ used to love beginning with the right side in his act of purification, and when he would purify himself, and in his combing when he combed, and in his wearing of his shoes when he would put his shoes on. So you always prefer the right. Okay, that not only is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about them. Ulaika ashabul yameen, they are the people of the right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes in Surah Al-Waqi'ah the people of the right, and then he speaks, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ulaika ashabul shimal, that they are the people of the left, and the people of the right are those who are righteous, and those people who are left are those who are damned. May Allah make us so the people of the right. And Abdullah ibn Mughaffal قال نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن الترجل إلا غبا. That the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم prohibited the combing of one's hair except every so often. So he would not do the why? Because this was a feminine trait. He would not advise that. Okay. One of the men, and then finally, and رجل من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يترجل غبا. That one of the men from the companions of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم narrates that the Prophet would only comb his hair every so often. It was not a regular thing. Okay, it was not a regular thing. More so, it was an affair that was done very naturally as far as the Prophet ﷺ was concerned. Okay, but from what we take from the hair of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sustenance and assistance and tawfiq was brought through the hairs of the Prophet ﷺ, as we see in the case of Khalid bin Walid and many others than that. Okay, and we ask Allah for tawfiq. And Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal radiyallahu anhu, he writes in he writes within his will, he had 3 hairs of the Prophet ﷺ. And he goes, when I die, I want you to put 1 hair here, 1 hair here, and 1 on my tongue. That he dies like that. So as they bury him, and they're burying him, they put 1 on each of his eyes, and they put 1 in his tongue. So, radiyallahu Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. Okay, realize the importance. Realize the importance of these affairs. Okay, you hear if the Prophet the Prophet's hair is near, to go and seek it out, take the blessing from it. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Okay, the companions did tawaf. Okay, around the Prophet just to get that hair. Okay, okay. May Allah just give us that one. I mean, okay. Jazakumullah khair, inshallah. We'll continue next time. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Jazakumullah khair.
That's the red phone.
No.